One of my favorite shows on Netflix is Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. Marie goes to people's houses and teaches them the art of organizing and tidying up. A lot of these people are buried in clutter. When she goes to their houses, she finds that a lot of those people are literally buried in clutter. And as you can already guess, they're not just buried in clutter in form of clothes and shoes and all that. They're drowning financially. Because of course it takes money for you to buy all that clutter, or for them rather to buy all that clutter. In fact, in one of those shows, there's this guy who has $10,000 in credit card debt due to his addiction to buying sneakers. $10,000 in credit card debt because of buying sneakers. Some of those sneakers he has never even worn, and he bought them years ago. So when Marie visits these houses, the first instruction he gives them is to put all their clothes in one pile. What happens as soon as they do this activity, they realize how much stuff they own that they actually do not use or haven't used for years. And Marie, in this show, she says that in order for you to understand how much stuff you own, you have to actually see it, touch it, and feel how much stuff they own. You have to see everything that you own. That is the only way for these people to understand the urgency of the problem they're in. And so one common characteristic with all the people in this show is avoidance. Yes, some people in this show have clothes. They realize that there are people in this show who have clothes that they bought years back, and these clothes still have tags on them. Somebody bought the clothes 5 years ago. Somebody bought clothes 10 years ago, and these clothes are still in the shopping bag. The shopping bag from the store they bought the clothes from. Some people bought clothes, and this one is common to a lot of us who bought clothes years ago and we've never worn these clothes. In fact, we forgot that these clothes exist. And so this is a common characteristics in this show. Avoidance. I was watching this show, it reminded me of a common financial mistake we often make, which is financial avoidance. And this is a common mistake that I want you to be aware of as you're setting financial goals for 2023, whether you've already set the goals or whether you are yet to set the goal. It's not too late, by the way. It's still early enough. You're still in January. It's still early enough for you to set your goals. Even if you watch this video in April or May, it's still early enough. It's always time. You're never late. It's always time to create your goals. And so before I give you the details of how financial avoidance has played out in your life, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Agatha from the Wealth Tribe, and this is where we learn how to build wealth together. If you're new here, welcome to the Wealth Tribe, and welcome to another episode of Wealth Wednesdays, where we learn how to build wealth together. So let's dive in and learn the 10 common mistakes that you should avoid while setting your financial goals this year. Number 1, as taught by Marie, financial avoidance. Financial avoidance, I've learned over the years that it's a coping mechanism that we use to avoid facing the skeletons in our closets, or rather the skeletons in our accounts. While it may be a solution that we can use temporarily, unfortunately it's not a sustainable solution. Avoiding asking yourself, how do I spend my money? What is my net worth? How much money do I need to invest in order to not retire into poverty? Avoiding all that might serve you for a while, but it will lead to a lot of bigger problems, just like the people in this show. And some of the problems that maybe you're already in, or maybe you've seen on TV or you've faced with people in your family, is debt. If you avoid to curb the habit of impulse buying, you'll end up in debt. And so other problems that come from financial avoidance: ruined relationships. Some people get auctioned eventually due to avoiding facing the skeletons in their accounts. Stress, anxiety, even depression can come from avoiding your finances or finding out what is happening in your accounts. Now, I've met a lot of people who actually live, and I'm sorry to say this, but I'm actually going to say this, I've met so many people who live delusional financial lives. What do I mean by this? These are people who wake up every day and go to work every day and make money, and at the end of every month earn a paycheck. But if you ask these people, how much money do you make? Do you know there are people who, yes, have a 9-to-5 job that makes them X amount of money, but they also have 2 or 3 side hustles. Maybe they have an Uber somewhere, or they have a tuk-tuk somewhere, like a lady I recently met, but they actually do not know how much they make at the end of the month. So they live that delusional life in that they don't know how much they make, they don't know where their money goes. All that happens is that by the 15th or by the 10th of every month, they're always wondering, where did my money go? They don't understand their cash flows. They don't know how much they're worth. They don't know if they're making progress towards achieving financial freedom, or making progress towards ensuring that they don't retire into poverty. All these people know is that, I want to be rich. You know, a lot of people's financial goals, if you ask a lot of people, what is your financial goal? All they'll tell you is, I want to be rich. I'm here to tell you that that is not a financial goal. Saying and wishing that you want to be rich and that you want to be a millionaire is not a financial goal. Now, let's go back to financial avoidance. To achieve your financial goals this year, if you've already made a list of them, to achieve your financial goals this year, you need to go ahead and face the skeletons in your closet. One way that you can do this is by calculating your net worth. What is your net worth? Your net worth, or how to calculate your net worth, is simply you make a list of your assets, and an asset is anything that is financially valuable. For example, a piece of land, money in your cash account, an investment that you have, a bond that you had invested in, a rate that you had invested in, any of those things. Make a list of all the assets that you own, and then make a list of all the liabilities that you owe. And liabilities is something such as debt, a liability that can also be school fees arrears that you have, rental arrears that you have, somebody that you owe money. So make a list of all your liabilities. And so what you need to do here is you subtract your liabilities from your assets, and when you subtract your liabilities from your assets, then you will know what is your net worth. And basically this activity is the same as what Marie Kondo was doing with these people in this documentary. They had to put all their clothes in one pile, and now for you have to put all your assets and liabilities or your financial life in a spreadsheet. The average person does not know what their net worth is. The average person doesn't know what is the total of their assets and how much debt they are carrying, and what is the answer when you subtract the two. And so what happens is, this is a very emotional activity for a lot of people. Yes, if you go through this activity, you're going to feel the emotions, but you have to go through the emotions, because that is the only way to get rid of this financial avoidance, in order to know how much you're worth. Or you have to go through this activity in order for you to understand the urgency that is in your financial life, or the urgency to put your financial ducks in a row. Yes, so one of the ways to have financial avoidance is to calculate your net worth, because as I always say, knowing your net worth, knowing how much you're worth, is the best starting point in order for you to understand what should I tackle first. Because for example, if you make a list of your liabilities and you realize, oops, I owe so much, because let me tell you, I've come across so many people, because this is my 9-to-5 job now. You know, helping people get better with their finances is now my 9-to-5 job. I've come across people, and you know, it can be good or bad. I've come across people who they're in their 30s, they're in their late 30s, they're in their 40s. They make a list of their assets and liabilities, and they realize that they're in so much debt that when they subtract the two, the figure is a negative. That means they have a negative net worth. That means they owe more money that they own, you know. And there are people, and in that instance, when they realize that they're in so much trouble, that's when it clicks in people's mind that, oh my God, I need to do something about my financial wellness now. I've also come across another group of people who've never calculated their net worth, and when I take them through this process, they realize, I'm not doing that badly off. There are people who are in a financial panic because they think that the world is ending, simply because they think that they don't own anything, or they're doing badly financially. And this is mostly people who are in their 40s who are panicking about their retirement. But because they've never gone through this activity where they list their list of assets, then they don't know how much money they're worth. It means they're panicking for no good reason. I've come across people who think that at most they only have 3 million in their net worth, and eventually when we do the math, they realize that they're actually worth 10 million and above. So this is your cue to sit down and calculate your net worth. And even if the description at the moment is not clear, or if you need a spreadsheet to help you calculate your net worth, I'll link it in the description box. Click and do this thing. Stop avoiding the skeletons in your accounts. Common mistake number 2 that people do when they're creating their or setting their financial goals is not having a daily, weekly, monthly, or an annual system. Basically not having a system. When I read this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, a very common book, in fact some Kenyans refer to it as the Kenyan set books. You might make fun of this book being a Kenyan set book, but I'll tell you the truth. This is one of the books that will save you financially. Read it. Anyway, in this book, James Clear says that both losers and winners have the same goals. Both losers and winners have the same goals. Everyone wants to be rich and everyone wants to be a millionaire. But what is the difference between people who will actually turn out to be millionaires, or people who will actually become millionaires, and those people who will not become millionaires? The difference is in their systems, or rather the difference is in their habits. So I know you've already created goals, or rather you want to create the goals, your financial goals this year. But this year, I want to challenge you to go a step further and ask yourself this question. What are you going to do on a daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly, or even annual basis to make sure that you actually achieve those goals? So don't just stop at creating your goals. Go a step further and ask yourself, which habits am I going to practice, or which habits am I going to onboard in my financial system in order to make sure that I actually smash or actually achieve those goals? One thing that you can do on a daily basis to help you achieve your financial goals is recording your expenses. So you can use a notebook, or you can use an app. For example, I use the Toshil Finance app at the end of every day to record my expenses for the day. What will you do on a weekly basis to actually make sure that you achieve your financial goals? A thing that you can do at the end of every week is creating your weekly budget, reviewing your spending for the week, and checking your bank statements at the end of the week to see how you did or where your money actually went. What can you do on a monthly basis? Which habits can you practice on a monthly basis to actually make sure that you achieve your financial goals? Reviewing or auditing your expenses, budgeting, setting a new budget for the new month and reviewing the budget or how you spent your money in the previous month, and having an accountability session with either your partner, your friend, or your financial coach. I am a financial coach, by the way. If you ever need one, just call me or email me. As James Clear says, again, in this book, he says that goals are good for setting a direction, but systems or habits are best for making progress. Mistake number 3 that people make while setting their financial goals is viewing your goals in isolation. So a lot of us have different goals, building a retirement fund, building an emergency fund, sticking to a budget, saving for a vacation, getting out of debt. A lot of us, the problem is that we view all these goals in isolation. Let me give a practical example. Let's say, for example, you want to save for your retirement. Saving for retirement, for most of us, is a long-term goal. It's a long-term goal that is so far away, and we feel that this goal, saving for retirement, is completely unaffected by our daily habits. That saving for retirement is completely unaffected by our daily financial habits, weekly financial habits, or monthly financial habits. Now, and so we decide that, when it comes to my retirement, I'm going to save for retirement, or I'm going to invest for my retirement when I get a promotion, or when I start earning more money, or when I get married, or when I turn 30. That's what we say about our retirement. But the truth is, your retirement fund or investing for your retirement is connected to your everyday budget. What do I mean? If you have a budget, which you should have, it's not debatable. So when in your monthly budget, so it's not, let me remove the if. In your monthly budget, you should have an amount, of course, that goes to your rent, to your daily, to electricity, to water, such bills. But also, you should have an X amount of money in your daily budget that goes towards your savings and investments. And one of those funds is your retirement fund. And so what happens if every month or every week you put an X amount of money towards your retirement fund? That means that your retirement fund will grow every year. See, you've moved it from a monthly thing, and then now that retirement fund will grow every year. And if your retirement fund grows every year, it means that this will grow your net worth, because one of the goals that you should have every year, every month, is to grow your net worth. And then if your net worth grows every year or every month, it means you're growing your financial security. So in every year or every month, you feel financially safer or financially secure. And eventually, you can use this retirement fund to get a loan. For example, you can get a mortgage loan using your retirement fund, or you can get a college loan for your kids using your retirement fund. For example, I always say one of the best ways to invest in your retirement is investing in treasury bonds. So this is an example to show you that your goals are interconnected. You shouldn't view getting out of debt in isolation. You shouldn't view saving for retirement in isolation. All these things feed into each other. And that is why personal finance writers or coaches always say that your getting to financial freedom is a lifestyle. It's not a one day thing. It's not a one event thing. It's a lifestyle. It's something that feeds into each other. Okay, so don't view your goals in isolation. Your budget is connected to when you will retire, because it's through your budget that you determine how much money you put in your retirement fund. Mistake number 4, not having an accountability system. I'll tell you this. 90% of my personal finance, or 90% of my coaching clients, my one-on-one coaching clients, are people who've already gone through a previous investment class. Yes, 90% of them have already gone through an online budgeting class, an online investing class, an online financial freedom class. Most of them have even gone through. There was even one client who told me that she used to live in Kisumu and she used to fly all the way to Nairobi every weekend to attend a one-on-one class, that used to be taught, a group class that used to be taught in Nairobi. And so when she wanted to sign up for my one-on-one coaching, I asked her, so what can I do for you if you already know where to invest? And she told me, Agatha, I need an accountability system. And that was one of the key lessons that taught me that adults are like kids. We literally are like kids. We actually need somebody, especially when it comes to finances, because this is not something that comes natural to us. It's not something that we are taught in school. It's not something that we are taught at home. We literally need to be treated like kids. We need an accountability system. We need someone to hold our hand and make sure that, yes, we said that we're going to achieve X. We're going to be millionaires in 2023. What are you actually doing on a daily basis, monthly basis, yearly basis to actually make sure that you actually hit that millionaire status? So it's one thing as adults to set goals. It's good to set goals, but it's a completely different ball game to continuously be responsible and committed to these goals. That I have realized from personal experience and from the people I coach. Because again, I repeat, every day I meet delusional people who lie to themselves that they are making progress with their finances, but they are actually not. And so, and also having an accountability system is a good thing, because a lot of us also downplay our progress. A lot of people will look at themselves and think, I have achieved nothing over the last 5 years that I've been working. But if somebody actually helps you stay accountable or come up with your net worth, you actually realize that, yes, I've been making a lot of progress. Also, an accountability system helps you to stop over comparing yourself with other people, because most of the time just that leads to stress. And so one of the ways that you can keep yourself accountable before you even get an external person, one of the ways that you can keep yourself accountable, and something I do at the end of the month, is auditing your expenses. And auditing your expenses. And I did a whole video with the 10 questions that I use, and I will link it up here. A whole video with the 10 questions that I use at the end of every month to audit my expenses. These are questions that I ask myself. For example, did you do any impulse purchase this month? Did you put money towards something that is valuable, or something that will something that you genuinely care about, or something that will have benefits 10 years to come, 5 years to come? So you can audit your expenses every month. You can watch the video for all the 10 questions. And another thing that you can do to keep yourself accountable is to set a recurring calendar invite. A recurring calendar invite, for example, mine always asks me, Agatha, it's time to sit down and audit your expenses for last month. I also have another recurring calendar invite that says, are you still sticking to your budget? That comes at the 15th of every month. You have to keep yourself accountable. You can also use a friend, but most of the time I've actually realized the closer you are to a friend, the worse they are when it comes to you, to being your accountability system, because most of the time you'll meet and you'll talk about something completely different from the money issues that you are meeting to talk about. So you can, yes, use a friend if you trust them to be your accountability system. You can use your partner, or you can use a financial coach like me to keep you accountable. Mistake number 5 that we do when we are creating your financial goals is not prioritizing. So what happens is that most of us at the beginning of the year have these massive goals, and it's like 10 of them, 20 of them, 50 of them. You want to be a millionaire, you want to buy a car, you want to buy a house, you want to start saving for retirement, you want to get better with budgeting, you want to get out of debt. But then what happens, because there's so many, you end up being overwhelmed, and because you end up being overwhelmed, you end up giving up altogether. But the situation of not prioritizing also, the reason why you should prioritize also is because it's always important to ask yourself, which of these should I tackle first? Which one is the most important? Which one will have the most impact in my life in terms of reducing my anxiety, in terms of reducing my stress if I actually achieve it? So it's always important to have an urgency tag. So you have 10 goals. Ask yourself, which one is the most urgent? Which two goals should I start with first? Because in that way you'll make progress. Because if you have an urgency tag for each of these, it means that you'll make progress, and when you make progress, you'll feel excited if you achieve one goal, and that excitement equals energy that will help you keep achieving more and more goals. For example, it's a very common question people ask me. Because a lot of us are in debt, people ask me, should I first get out of debt or should I first start investing? And the first question I always ask, which form of debt are you in? Because if you're in credit card debt, or if you're in mobile money loan debt, and most of the time this debt is like 20% and above interest. Sometimes mobile money loans will even be 50-80%. So if you're in that form of debt, and then you ask me, should I invest, or should I start investing, or should I get rid of this debt? The obvious answer is that your priority here should be to get out of debt. Why? There is no investment in this country, Kenya, that will give you a higher interest rate or a higher returns. There's no investment that will give you higher returns than 20%, which means that if you don't tackle your debt first, you'll be losing way more money than you'll ever gain from your investment. Of course, if you're in low interest debt, it's possible for you to do both. Have an X amount of money in your budget that goes towards debt payment, and an X amount of money that goes towards your investment. But the point here is prioritize. You can't handle all your 50 goals at a go. Mistake number 6, focusing on big goals and not celebrating small wins. And I've realized that this comes from the fact that every beginning of the year we are told, if your goals are not not big enough, or if your goals don't scare you, then they're not big enough. I'm sure you've heard that thing, that if your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough. And so what happens is that we create these big audacious goals, and we live in this tension that I will only celebrate, or I'll only celebrate myself the day I buy my dream car. I'll only celebrate the day I buy a house. I'll only celebrate the day I invest 1 million shillings. Which reminds me, like last year I met someone who they've been procrastinating on investing in treasury bonds because they think that investing 100,000 shillings on treasury bonds is such little money that they want to they will invest in treasury bonds the day they will be able to invest 500,000. And so you know what has happened? 3 years have passed, and this person has never invested in a treasury bond. They are still waiting, because to be honest, most of us will never be in a position. It's a truth. Most of us will find it difficult to put together 500,000 shillings in order for us to take advantage of these investment options. So what is the point here? Small investments, small wins matter. So and it's because it's the small wins that keep you going. It's the small wins that keep you motivated to achieve your big goals. For example, if you stick to your budget over a period of 2 or 3 months, what does that mean? It means that you're sticking to a system that will allow you to put money aside to start investing. So yes, celebrate your small wins. It is those small wins that will help you achieve your bigger goals. Common mistake number 7 when setting your financial goals is not having a solid why. Why do you want to achieve the goals that you set? Why are those goals important to you? What will happen if you do not achieve those goals? For example, when setting my financial goals in this year, one of the things that I reminded myself is that I've been poor before and I do not want to experience poverty 2.0. I've been in debt before. I have experienced the anxiety that comes with living paycheck to paycheck, and the anxiety that comes with not knowing where will my next month's rent come from. And therefore, my financial goals are important to me because of that aspect. And also because I crave financial freedom. I crave a life where I can wake up tomorrow and decide, oops, I don't feel like being in Nairobi this week. I don't feel like being in Nairobi this weekend. I go. So now it's about you. And while we're talking about financial goals, one of the best quotes I came across while doing research for this video is, a good financial plan is a roadmap that shows us exactly how the choices we make today will affect our future tomorrow. And so it's always important to ask yourself, what do you stand to lose if you don't stick to your goals? What are the opportunity costs? Because if you know what you stand to lose, or what are the opportunity costs in your life, then you will have the motivation to wake up every day and chase after your goals. Mistake number 8, giving up when you make a mistake. You will mess up. Even if, no matter how motivated or no matter how dedicated you are to achieving your financial goals this year, you will mess up, because it's part of the game. Especially with personal finance and investing, you will mess up. You'll likely lose some money. It's part of life. It's part of investing. It's part of personal finance. I used to live in constant fear that I don't want to make an impulse purchase. I don't want to lose money through investing. I don't want to make a mistake in my budgeting. Until again, I read this book from James Clear, and he taught me that the first mistake is never the one that ruins you. It's a spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. The problem is not slipping up. The problem is thinking that if you cannot do something perfectly, then you shouldn't do it at all. The goal here is, even if you don't know how to invest, even if you don't know how to create a budget, and I've written a lot of content that I will link in the description box about how to do this, even if you don't know how to get yourself out of the debt that you've gotten yourself into in the past year, it's okay. But the thing is, you have to start where you are with the knowledge that you have. Use all the resources that are on this channel to get yourself into a better position, and in the process of getting yourself there, or in the process of making sure that you achieve your goals, learn from the mistakes, because as I said, they will happen. Just start and keep going. Mistake number 9 that is very common is copying other people's goals. I always say, don't buy personal finance advice on wholesale. On this thing called the internet, you will find a lot of people sharing personal finance advice, or rather sharing their 2023 personal finance goals, or what they actually want to achieve. But I always remind people that most people, or every one of us, sets our goals based on our realities and experiences. Okay, so when I share with you my goals, don't be tempted to copy my goals, because I have created these goals based on my realities and my experiences. And some of these experiences might actually be fear. I keep telling a story of a lady I once met who one of her constant goals, or her recurring goals every year, is to buy themselves a house. And when I asked her, why do you want to buy a house so much, she told me a story that when they were kids, one day they were evicted from their home, and this is a home that her parents had built together, and they had lived in this home for years. This is the only home she had ever known. But one day, due to conflict in the family, they were evicted in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. And so they had to spend the rest of the night out in the cold with the few belongings that they could rescue. And so for her, this was trauma. This was a traumatic experience, and this traumatic experience is what informed her one key goal, to build herself a house, or to buy herself a home. So when this person shares that, this year I want to build a home, or I want to buy a house, and then you end up copying her, we're not saying that is a bad goal, but remember, her goal is informed by trauma. Her goal is informed by her fears, an experience that she's been through. So you can't go around copying people's goals, right? You have to, when you're setting your own goals, or when you hear other people setting their goals, you have to go back to your little house, or your big house, to your kids, to your family, and ask yourself, this is my reality. are the goals that I have in my books, or are the goals that I'm planning to pursue from now moving forward serving me, or are they serving other people that I read on the internet? And it's also important to remember that a lot of people out here are upgrading their lifestyles with liabilities. You know, people are buying and of course, hey, I have to set this clear. Me, I like it when people have soft life. Me, I like it when people buy new cars. I like it when people live in posh houses. I like it when people, you know, live their best life. I like it. But of course, it's a problem when you are copying people who are living this posh life, or who are upgrading this posh life with liabilities. So you might find somebody who is upgrading their car with a liability or through a debt, and there you are copying them or wanting to be like them without knowing how much do they make. Because even it's possible for, yeah, people upgrade their cars all the time or their houses all the time based on how much money they earn. So if you copy them and you don't know how much they make, where do they get their money from? Ask yourself these questions before you decide to copy other people's goals. The goal here, or the hack here, I always say, and allow me to give another example. I have seen a lot of people buy plots of land because friends or people in their age group are buying plots of land, or everybody they know owns a plot of land. But the hack here is always this. I always tell people when they ask me, should I invest in a money market fund or stock market? Should I buy a plot of land or buy a house? I always ask people, the goal here is to understand what are your financial goals based on your experiences and your realities, and then match those goals to good investments. For example, if one of your goals is to build an emergency fund, then that is the goal, to build an emergency fund. Which investment vehicle should you use to build an emergency fund? It's obviously an investment vehicle that preserves your capital, because your emergency fund is something that you should never lose. It's something that you should never invest in a risky investment. So the goal is to have an emergency fund. You invest it in a capital preservation tool, and that capital preservation tool is a money market fund. Match your goals with viable investment opportunities. Not copy. Don't copy other people's goals. Mistake number 10 that most of us make is ignoring inflation. And what is inflation? The constant rise in the price of goods. The constant rise in the price of goods or living standards. And so what happens is that you should always make investments you should always invest in investment vehicles that beat inflation, or investments that grow faster than the inflation rate in your country, whichever country you're in. And that's why I always say it's a terrible, terrible mistake for you to store your money under the mattress. I hope nobody's in the wealth tribe is still storing their money under the mattress because they fear investing. And I hope no one still has money. I know this is common. I find it every day. I come across it every day. People storing their money in current accounts or in bank accounts. You have to remove that money from your current account and put it in investments that are beating inflation. That is the only way that you're going to actually achieve your financial goals this year. And if you're wondering which investments should I invest in order for me to achieve these goals, here, click this video. It will be either here or here. Click that video and watch a list of all the investments. I even have a list of investments that you can invest with as little as $10 or 1,000 shillings. Thank you. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. See you on the next one.